So today, excuse me, a part of preservation, cobblestone architecture. And if I could just say a little story, my friend that I sat, one of the other staff at the Landmark Society, our desks were fairly close. And so her nephew drove in from Buffalo along 104. And he wanted to know what those potato houses were. and she's like, potato houses. But yeah, now whenever I go by one, I think of that. So, Dawn, Dawn, come up here. Dawn is a Wayne County person. She's on our Historic Properties Committee and knows Mr. Davis. And Mrs. Bailey. And so she...
Tell them how, Dawn.
Yeah, tell them how. And so she'd like to introduce him.
Okay. Today, Mr. Gene Davis will be presenting the history of cobblestones in Wayne County and Webster. He's a town historian for Walworth, and he's also a retired history teacher. And he was my teacher way back when.
Your favorite teacher.
Probably not, but that's okay. Can we kill these upper lights?
Turn the lights
I don't
off.
care about the others, but get it a little darker in here, then I think would make it easier for people. Is that all right for everyone? Okay. As Dawn said, I am a retired teacher from Wayne Central. There's another one over there. Sherman Galbraith was one of my colleagues back in the day. One of the things that I did while I was teaching 7th grade social studies for about 18 years is I teamed up with another teacher and we took our kids on a field trip to the Wayne County Museum. Because I hate to have kids just riding on a bus doing nothing useful, we laid out a route and we made a list of things that we wanted them to see. So, and it was mostly related to architectural styles, including some of this cobblestone stuff. So we did that for, like I said, almost 15 years. And to this day, when I run into former students, most of them tell me they remember the field trip. And the architecture. And someone will say, hey, I still look at architecture. Cool. Okay, cobblestone masonry is unique, and I don't know what's going on today. My computer and this projector are not liking each other, apparently, because cobblestone, the C shouldn't be cut off, but it is. We'll deal with it.
If you just move the stand.
Okay. This program has 100 and some images in it, and most of them come out of the Cobblestone Society's info base, which was developed by Greg Lawrence of the Cobblestone Society. He's a volunteer. And they have photos from all sorts of sources, and he's gathered them all together and put them online. So if you go to the Cobblestone Society website and look at their info base, you can look at every known cobblestone structure there is. It's just amazing. This is mostly about Wayne County because Wayne County has more cobblestone structures than any other place. But I'm going to bring in some Webster stuff and I'm going to show you some stuff from all over the region. 20% of all the cobblestone structures in the world are in Wayne County.
Wow.
Here's a map. Probably your way, aren't I? Here's a map on the Cobblestone Society page. All the pink counties have cobblestone structures. The green ones don't, or not that we know of anyway. Let me give you a little closer view of that. The top 4 are Wayne, Ontario, Monroe, and Orleans. And that counts for 588 of the 1,100 plus cobblestone structures known. feet all day. All right, what is a cobblestone? Got some up here. Typically, it's a smallish, roundish stone, somewhere between 2 and 6 inches in size. Most of the ones used in masonry are 2.5 to 6, sometimes a little larger. Larger stones were put on the inside of the wall where you don't see them, whatever they could fill that wall with, because most of those walls were 18 inches to 2 foot thick. This area has an abundance of cobblestones because we were covered by a glacier for many years, and it kind of ground them up and spit them out, I guess. And along the lake, we find stones that are smooth because the lake water action, wave action, over hundreds or thousands of years has rounded them. Same thing goes for streams. There's some examples. There's 2 types there. One we call field cobbles, which are the ones on the left, and on the right are the lake washed or stream washed cobblestones. And of course they're all different colors too. Why cobblestones? Well, in the day that when they were built, we didn't have fire departments. Something caught on fire, it burned down. A wooden structure is more likely to burn down than a stone structure. So stones or bricks were preferred. Cobblestones were abundant, therefore relatively inexpensive. Labor costs were minimal, and since they were kind of decorative, that was sort of a status symbol to have a cobblestone house. The alternative would have been a cut stone house. This one is from Walworth in 1813. It's cut limestone. There's a dozen or so around Wayne County, a lot of them in Marion. But this is before cobblestone era. Cobblestone era is 1825 to 1860. It didn't start on January 1st and end on December 31st. No, this is just kind of a general range of things. And we divided into 3 periods, early, middle, late. The early period, the methodology was to build a rubble wall of whatever stones you could find, but on the outside of it, kind of put rows of somewhat even-sized stones. Mostly field cobbles in the early days. Here's an example from Soda Center. Don't know the date, but I'm guessing it's 1830-ish, one give or take a little. As you can see, the stones are fairly irregular in size, but they are kind of laid in rows. Another example from Palmyra. This one's 1832. Middle period. During this period, they still had the rubble wall, and they still had the facing stones, but they became a little more sophisticated at this point, and there were stones that sometimes, like this long one here, you might only see this, the end of it, because the rest of it's kind of bonding the whole wall together. This is the Bullis House in Macedon, 1839. Another one from Marion. Don't know the date, but it is middle period. If you go out to Camp Beechwood, or Beechwood State Park now, there's a falling down cobblestone structure. And you get a look at what the wall is like, which is kind of cool. I mean, I hate to see cobblestone structures fall down, but it is kind of nice to see how they're put together. Here's another wall falling down in Williamson, right on Ridge Road. It was built as a home, it later became a service station. I'll show you that in a minute. But again, it's middle period, 1838. Here's what it looked like in 1920. Again, I apologize for my computer not showing the whole screen. It says this 1920 photo shows Dr. Ward and his wife Mary. And in 1940-41, this is what it looked like. It was the Texaco service station. And this is what it looks like now. Again, it's sad to see it fall down, but it's kind of nice to be able to study it a little bit. And one of the things that's kind of interesting, studying it from the inside, my little pointer thing to work. Okay, I want a pointer. Okay, I guess the one. This is the floor level here. There it is. Okay. This is the floor level here. This is the base, you know, the foundation is made out of random stones. This is the inside of the house, so you see they're not the nice smooth cobblestones here, but they have embedded pieces of wood. I don't know for sure, but I suspect it's so they could put lath. You know what lath is? Pieces of board that they put plaster over. I suspect that's what that is for. So it's kind of cool to see what the inside looks like. The later period, they built what they call the rubble wall, and then they put a veneer of small, evenly sized cobblestones on the front of it. Here's an example from Yates County. You see the technology is failing me today. You see the rubble wall, and then you see the little veneered stones that are falling off, because what happens when you have two layers, a little moisture gets behind it, freezes up, pop, off come the stones. Here's one from Williamson. I don't know the date, but it's definitely late period. One from Palmyra, 1849, the Martin Harris farm. Sometimes they put them in cool patterns called herringbone, because you get a stone like this one. You can embed it like that. I don't want to talk about all these things, but I want to mention something called coins, Q-U-O-I-N-S, pronounced like it's C-O-I-N-S, and lintels, which are the whatever's above the window. Here's some coins. These are pretty crude ones. They're to strengthen the corners. And usually they're blocks of stone of some sort. Here's another one. The ones on the left are a little bit cruder cut limestone, and then they get more sophisticated cut limestone, and then they get cut sandstone. And then sometimes they make them into solid, what we call pilasters, that are like a solid block. And so that one on the left is, you just see the stone. The one in the middle, they plastered over it. The one on the right is bricks instead of stones. These are lintels. The L is somewhat missing here. Above the doors and windows, the top picture has cut limestone lintels. The bottom one are wood. Here are other examples. They used pieces of limestone in the top left there and kind of keystoned them in. Same on the one underneath that. Looks like some brick at the bottom one. Bottom middle is kind of cut sandstone, as it is on the right. Some bricks, I think, on the others up here on the top right. The beading. The beading is what we refer to as the strips of mortar between the rows of cobblestones. Bottom left, there's hardly any beading there. They're just kind of stones embedded into the wall. Top middle, a little more sophisticated, but the beads aren't real straight. They're kind of wavy. Bottom middle, they've kind of put in a upright bead as well as the horizontal bead. And then on the right up top there, they have kind of little triangles between them. And on the bottom, a later version with a very precise straight bead that you would find in the late middle and later period. This guy got fancy. He framed each of his rocks with a bead. I don't recall where that was, somewhere in western New York, further west. 1846. Mortar. They used lime mortar to put the stones together. The lime mortar was made of limestone chopped up and put into a kiln and then mixed with water to what they call slack it, and it produces this powder after this chemical reaction takes place. So mortar, sand, and water make up the mortar to be used to put these together. Top left, or left picture is kind of a classic Greek revival look. On the right is a Gothic revival style. And as you can see, the cobblestones sometimes had more than one style of architecture. This is kind of unique. In fact, it wasn't in the cobblestone database until I called it to Greg Lawrence's attention, and he added it. This is not during the cobblestone era. This is 1890-ish. Don't know the exact date, but somebody must have really liked cobblestones and they wanted to be decorative, so they made diamond shapes. And it's the front porch of a 1890s style house. Kind of cool. Let's talk about other uses for buildings other than houses. Schoolhouses. At one point there were more than 30 schoolhouses in Wayne County that were cobblestone. Some of them are still remain, including this one. This one is now a museum in the town of Butler, owned by the Butler Historical Society. 1824. Catch the date, 1824. When did I say the cobblestone era started? 1825. This is very early. In fact, it's listed on the National Register of Historic Places and is probably the oldest cobblestone schoolhouse in existence. Here's another fairly early one in Wallington. Sorry about the WAL missing. This one is owned by the Wallington Community Foundation, and they have they invite kids to come in the spring and have class in their old schoolhouse. So this is the Walworth Academy. The cobblestone structure, they outgrew it very quickly. Built in 1842, by 1857 they needed a bigger building, so they built a brick structure next door. And you see the brick structure at the edge of both of those pictures. Notice the little bridge back and forth. When they built the brick structure, the cobblestone structure became the residence for the principal and a boarding house. So students would come and stay at the boarding house, go to school here at the academy, probably went home on weekends. Churches. The Elton Methodist Church, 1851 on the left, the town of Sodus, and the Williamson Baptist Church, 1843. Barns. There's one in Marion and one in Palmyra. Don't know the date of the Palmyra one, but probably middle. Other outbuildings such as smokehouses were commonly built out of cobblestone. And even a doctor's office in Rhodes. The building, we don't have a picture of the building except in this drawing that was in one of the history books for Wayne County. It was, the doctor was in business for 45 years, and they tore his cobblestone office building down in 1921. Don't know why. And this one is truly unique. Number one, it's cobblestone, which makes it pretty unique, but two, it's octagon. And the interesting thing about this is that this particular structure was built before the octagon era, before octagons became popular in the 1840s, 50s. So, and it served as a blacksmith shop right into the 20th century. All right, let's look at a few more homes through Wayne County. Town of Arcadia, 1836. It was torn down in 1938. Nice Greek Revival style building. Here's one from Galen, and they have their own little smokehouse too to go with it. Date stone, 1841. Notice that the beading on that one, it has the vertical in between. This one's from Huron, 1835. The corners have the brick pilasters covered over with mortar or plaster, which is declining a little bit on that one. This once belonged to the Ontario town historian, Virginia Scully. It's on Walworth, Ontario Road, middle period. This is from Lyons, 1831. Savannah, 1858. Walworth, 1837, Smith Hill Road. Dr. Neil Smith lives there. Kind of cool. Smith on Smith Hill Road. Notice that this one is, this is in the village of Red Creek, the town of Wolcott, 1840. The picture on the left, taken probably in 1940-ish, does not have a front porch. The picture on the right, more recent picture, does have a front porch. Somebody decided they liked the front. But the good news is that the person who did it must have done a little research, because the style of his porch is appropriate for the style of the house. Some other counties have a lot of cool things too. A 3-story building, cobblestone, 1837, built as a seminary. It later became the Town of Alexander Hall, Town Hall. I'm not sure if it still is or not. This is in the town of Wheatland. It's a Quaker meeting house. Notice it has 2 doors. You know that the Quakers always had a separation in their meeting houses of men and women. And the door on the right is for the men, because men are always right. But that's not what my wife says. She says women should have the right door because women are always right. But anyway.
I actually looked that up today and found out that the men's door was on the right.
Cast aisle, it's kind of a unique shape. Recessed porch, second story, isn't whole second story. Junius Methodist Church in the town in Seneca County, 1839. Kind of a neat window in the front of it. Oh, we're in Webster. Hey, you guys have bragging rights too. You have the largest cobblestone church known. So I probably don't have to tell you anything more about it because you already know all this stuff, right? Here's another one of your churches. It's no longer a church, obviously.
A restaurant
It's a
now.
restaurant now.
And I found this morning and added it to the slideshow. Webster District 7,
Yeah.
kind of a nice little, I guess that must have been a newspaper article or something on the left. Picture of it on the right and the date stone up at the top. And here's a more recent picture of it from the Cobblestone Society info base. It's part of a larger house. And then I found this one. And, you know, it's so-so in terms of outbuildings, smokehouse, but look at that. It's got a block of stone in the middle of the cobblestones. Kind of unique.
Couldn't find cobblestone.
You probably have this picture somewhere in your archives. Demolished in 1937. It was built in 1830, about 1830. And another one, don't know the dates. The dates are not listed, at least in the info base, of when it was built or when it was torn down. It's also here in Webster. Okay. This is over in the town of Junius in Seneca County, a house built in 1840. But notice in the middle between the house and the left part of the house, there's a space that has a wooden structure. Here's a picture from 1940. Looks to me like there's nothing there except a roof over that, connecting this and that. Any thoughts on what this might be?
Carriage outhouse?
No? Anyone thinking kitchen?
Yeah, that's what I
Oh.
Summer kitchen.
Well, it was the year-round kitchen,
Huh.
but yeah, absolutely, because
This is
remember,
probably
danger of
wood-
fire,
Wood fire, you know.
and also, of course, in the summertime, you don't want all that heat in the rest of your house. Here is a very large one in the town of Starkey in Yates County, 1848 to 51. I believe I read that it has 21 rooms.
Do you know how long it would take them to build something like this?
Sometimes they were built in a year or so, but oftentimes it took a couple, 3.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
This is the back section of that house, and here's the end. And in the info base, it says this was the kitchen. Again, kind of separated, not totally, but partially separated from the rest of the house.
Oh,
Town of Bridgewater, a round hop kiln. Hops, which are used in making beer, have to be dried. They're done, it's done in the kiln. There's another hop kiln in Madison County, town of Eaton. This one was destroyed by a fire in 1965. In the town of Potter in Yates County, there was a schoolhouse built in 1838, torn down in 1920 after it had a fire, destroyed the roof. The cool thing about modern technology is someone could take that black and white photo and colorize it and make it look like a modern picture. There's another schoolhouse in Victor with a 2-door outhouse attached, also made out of cobblestone. Kind of interesting, the coins here, got some brick, got some stone, some different stone,
Leftovers?
maybe. This one in Oneida County is kind of cool. Number one, the corners are the pilasters with cut stones, but the pillars are covered with cobblestone. I suspect it's kind of a veneer. I don't know that for sure, but I suspect that's the case. If you've ever driven on Route 96 in the town of Phelps, you probably noticed this because it goes on and on and on. It's a huge cobblestone house with 4 cobblestone barns that are all attached to one another.
Oh my goodness.
So you can go out your back door, into the barn, into the next barn, into the next barn, into the next barn.
England feeling.
Kind of handy, I guess, in upstate New York weather. This is in the town of Victor, Fishers. It was a pump house that was built in 1845 for the Auburn and Rochester Railroad to provide water for the steam engines. I suspect most of you have been to Genesee Country Village and Museum. This is the blacksmith shop there. Kind of an interesting structure that was taken apart stone by stone and reconstructed at the museum. This is what it looked like in its original location in Wheatland. And it was used for a blacksmith shop for many years, and then it got used for a wagon shop, and then it got used for storage for potatoes. So, but the interesting thing about this is that the stones, this would be a little stone in that building. The stones are huge. That's my hand. It's 8 inches from the tip of my thumb to the tip of my little finger. So you see how large those stones are. Here's another example of a Gothic style cobblestone structure in Phelps, Ontario County. And this one picked up the Italianate style that became popular in the mid-1800s, 1854 exactly, is this one. The rounded windows, the brackets on the edge of the roof are all part of the Italianate style that became popular in that period of time. The Tinker Homestead in the town of Henrietta is on the National Register. It's an early one, 1828 to 30, a couple of years to build it, 2-3 years to build it. It's now belongs to the, I believe, to the town of Henrietta, and is open to the public. They have a nature park out behind it. So, Liz and I went to a Cobblestone Society awards banquet last fall, and the Orleans County Historical Association received a recognition Historic Preservation Award for their cobblestone schoolhouse that was built in 1832. Likewise, another couple who were there from Orleans County received an award for preserving this really cool cobblestone Greek Revival style home. This guy got creative. Probably a middle periods thing, but he really got decorative over the doorway. And this also is one of a kind, and also is not during the cobblestone era, because Robert Kimball died in 1889. It's a monument to him, his wife, their 6 kids, none of which lived past the age of 8.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
And 2 other Kimbells that may perhaps have been brothers of Robert. But it's in Meridian, in Cayuga County. We drive through Meridian often, and I gotta find that cemetery, go look. This is in the town of Madison in Madison County, 1840. It's an octagon cobblestone house.
Cool.
Again, there aren't many of those, but Wayne County has one. You wouldn't know it because it's covered with stucco. It's on Rich Road in Williamson. Didn't know that when I took Dawn on the field trip. Didn't know it was cobblestone. I knew it was stucco, I knew it was octagon, so it was still cool. On Route 20 in the town of Bulkville in Madison County is the Landmark Tavern on the National Register of Historic Places. It is a huge building, very, very beautiful.
What is it? Is it a tavern now?
It is. I'm
Oh.
told it's a great place to eat. I haven't been there yet. Okay. Why did this all end? 3 main reasons. 1, modern wood frame balloon construction became more sophisticated, more popular. 2, bricks were now being mass produced and therefore affordable. And 3, this lime mortar that they had been using took forever to dry. Took a long time to dry, so they could only do a course or 2 at a time, and then they had to wait for it to dry.
Oh my goodness.
So a Portland cement mortar came along and made it possible to keep going and build faster. As a result, cobblestone buildings became too costly and too time-consuming to construct. So after 1860, hardly anything was built with cobblestone. Now, at the beginning I told you it was 210 cobblestone structures in Wayne County. Well, that was as of 10/20/21. A lot of research has been done since then. The current number of cobblestone structures known to have been built in Wayne County is up to 252. And I'm waiting for them to update the map on the front. So I'd like to see how many more have been discovered in other counties. If you go to the Cobblestone Society database, and again I apologize that on my screen there it's not cut off, but it lists all the counties, the 28 counties on the left side, and if you click on Wayne County or Monroe County, then all the towns that have them will show up. You click on the town and you'll find however many they have, and then you click on each one and there's a description, there's pictures, there's all sorts of cool stuff. And then there's other places that have some other places like Illinois, Massachusetts, Michigan. Fairly long list from Michigan, a fairly long list from Wisconsin. And I was going through this and whoa, Walworth caught my eye. Walworth County, Wisconsin, where the town of Walworth in Wisconsin is located. There's only 2 Walworths that I know of. And they've got 9 cobblestone structures. So why are there so many in Wisconsin and Michigan?
Great Lakes.
They're near the lakes too, but a lot of people from western New York migrated further west, and I suspect somebody took those ideas of cobblestone structures along with them. So here's one from Troy Township in Walworth County, another one from Spring Prairie Township, Again, I'd like to acknowledge the best, absolute best source of information is the Cobblestone Society Infobase. As I said, it has pictures of everything that they have pictures of. It has shows you where it is, GPS coordinates. It gives you whatever information they know about it is listed on that page. Secondly, a researcher by the name of Karen Crandall has created a number of fact sheets about cobblestone structures that are gone. She researched all the old newspapers, she researched libraries and books and interviewed probably every town historian that ever was. And whatever information she could gather, she put together in these fact sheets. Thirdly, Richard Palmer, who got interested in cobblestones and drove all over, including out west to Wisconsin and Michigan, to photograph them. His photographs are in almost every page of the database. Here's Karen's, 2 pages of one of Karen's descriptions, and I know you can't read it, but it basically gives where it is, the address, when it was built, when it was torn down, whatever description she can come up with, and a lot of other information. This was for the Walworth Academy that she did this one. If you're looking for cobblestone structures in Wayne County, you can also use the Wayne Historians Database. So the way this thing works is we have 15 towns. I selected it all. I selected architecture as the category and the subcategory cobblestone. I did the search and it listed those 211. The extra one is a sign about cobblestone masonry. That's why we have 211 instead of 210. But if you click on any one of those, you get a page that looks like this. It has the location, the name of the structure, the site name, GPS coordinates, which you can click on and it'll take you to a Google map. It's got photos, it's got a description or narrative, and it has references. And we've tried to tie ours to the Cobblestone Society database as well. Cynthia Houck of the Landmark Society asked me to make a comment about this, and again, I apologize that my screen isn't showing the way it should be showing. But if you own a cobblestone structure, she strongly urges you to get it on the National Register of Historic Places because you are maybe eligible to apply for grants to help maintain it. And those things are not cheap to maintain. I have some reference books laying over here that you're welcome to look at. One of them was by Rich and Sue Freeman called Cobblestone Quest. It's basically a series of tours around western New York looking at cobblestone structures from the road. Obviously they're private property, so you can't go, hey, I want to look inside your house. No, you can't do that, but you can drive by them and there's some information about them. Carl Schmidt is the foremost expert on, or was the foremost, he's passed away now, expert on cobblestone architecture. He has 2 books. I only have one of them so far. And then there's the second one that has a lot of great photographs from a woman by the name of Gerda Petterick. And those are laying over here. Recently I served as co-chair of the Wayne County Bicentennial Celebration. And one of the things that we did was to create what we call rack cards or information cards. And when I discovered that 20% of all the cobblestone structures in the world were in Wayne County, we had to brag about it. So we created this card, and it has the reference on the bottom of it for the Cobblestone Society. One of the ladies that did a lot of research about cobblestones wrote this cute little poem. Let me quickly read it to you. As I go wandering up and down New York State's ridge and old byways, I stop and chat with farmers there and hear the lore of bygone days, of houses built of cobblestones, brought by the lake by oxen strong, or harvested with patient toil from glacial fields where they belong. These stones were sorted then for size by dropping through a beetle ring, and reddish ones were laid aside to use where they'd attention bring. The mason patiently did lay in row on row of mortar hard, round stones or patterned herringbone, which we with wonder now regard. O houses blessed with memory sweet, of busy housewives, farmers strong, who round the family fireside sat to worship God with evening song. That is by Dorothy Wells Pease. Kind of a cute little poem. We went to the George Eastman House for their gingerbread house display. Someone got really creative with jelly beans or whatever and created this cobblestone structure. I thought it was kind of cute. And then we have a request, or the Cobblestone Society has a request. If anybody has any clues whatsoever, they don't know where this is. Somebody gave them a picture of a cobblestone structure. Actually, it's not all cobblestone, it's just cobblestone in the middle. Wood on that side, wood on that side. But it's, and again, my picture isn't showing up, it's next to a brick structure that appears to be a church. So if you have any photographs in your collections that show a cobblestone structure near a church, and the structure's probably gone, the cobblestone structure, and the church may be gone. So, but they're trying to locate where this is, so. I'll be doing this program, or a version of this program, again, I customize it for wherever I am, for the Ontario Historical Society on July 19th, for the Pulteneyville Homecoming on July 19th. It's 10 a.m. in Ontario, 4:30 in Gates Hall, and for the Lions Heritage Society on October 20th. So, and if you are not from here and are associated with some other place and would like me to come and do a program, I'd be happy to talk to people about that. This is my contact information if you want to take a picture of it or write it down. That's fine too. So. Okay, we have some lights back on.
There we go.
Who has questions?
I have a question. Were the Masons, were they of a certain ethnic group that
I don't believe so.
built cobblestones or?
I don't think so. The other question that sort of relates to that, who were the Masons? There has been speculation that a lot of them were Erie Canal workers. There is no evidence that that's the case. Now, that doesn't say that some of them didn't become house builders and masons and built cobblestone. They might have, but it's not all of a sudden the Erie Canal's done and everybody's building cobblestone houses. That's not the case. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if it's rumor, I read it somewhere, that the formula, which you
For the
clearly
mortar?
stated, for the mortar is well known, but cannot be duplicated.
I guess the question is, as I understand it, each mason had their own formula, and it varied a little bit. It can't vary a lot because, and I believe you can duplicate it. In fact, I've heard that various restoration people have done that, but it certainly is not as easy to work with as modern Portland cement type mortar, and it takes a long time to dry. But if you're doing a restoration job on a cobblestone structure, you probably want to try to use that because it looks different than modern mortar does.
I have a question. I know, troublemaker. In the poem, it mentioned a beetle ring.
Oh, yeah, thank you, darling. Anyone have a clue on what a beetle ring might be? Yes,
It's how they measured the stone size.
it is. You know those little plastic things that you sort out your spaghetti with if you want to have just a small serving or a big serving? It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Somebody bored a couple, 3 holes in a board, and if it fit through this hole but not that hole, or not in this, and go through this one, you know, it might be the right size for what you want to do. So, yeah, sir?
I just wanted to, I have a friend that I graduated from high school with, and he goes around restoring stone, not just cobblestone, but fieldstone, whatever.
Okay.
And he's very conscious of the mortar because
Oh, I'm sure.
Portland is dangerous to the original mortar.
Yeah, I
And
wouldn't,
it's-
I didn't know that, but I could see that would happen.
It
Yeah.
will heat up and eat into
Okay,
the
yeah.
existing line. It doesn't work with the line.
Okay, they're incompatible with each other, yeah, okay.
Is there documentation anywhere that a lot of these houses were part of the Underground Railroad?
I don't know if there's any connection between Cobblestone and Underground Railroad. Underground Railroad was quite a network of, especially here around this area, being close to the lake,
Yeah.
where people,
Because Pulteneyville was a big hub.
right, yeah, and Sawyer's Point and Niagara Falls too. But no, I don't think there's any specific connection between Cobblestone and Underground. Dawn?
Are cobblestone houses easier to heat than wood houses?
I'll let her answer that question. She used to live in one.
What happens is the stone absorbs the heat,
Uh-huh,
but the heat doesn't really stay in your rooms.
uh-huh.
It's busy absorbing, being absorbed by the stone. And in the summertime.
The stone gets hot and stays that way, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It gets really hot.
And in the wintertime, the stone gets cold and stays that way.
Yep. And we had frost on our living room walls.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, did your house have lath and plaster on the inside of it?
No,
No, okay.
no, it was just plaster, but no lath.
Okay. So, yeah, I can remember when I was teaching at Wayne Central, my classroom was on the east side of the building, and that morning sun warmed up those bricks, and it stayed hot in our classroom all day long.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
On is the boards that were on the were they on the outside and the inside?
No.
Just on the inside?
Yeah.
Well, it would make sense to me that if there was wood there, then you would nail wooden pieces onto that wood to make the inside warmer by having a wooden
Yeah.
wall. And
Yeah,
so
I think that one in Williamson that I showed
Yeah.
you that had the wood in it
Plaster would be
might have
as
had
cold as-
lath and plaster. I don't know that for sure,
Yeah,
but, yeah, that would be a way of making it warmer, for sure.
Our house had those boards. So it was like every 1.5 feet maybe,
Okay.
there would be a layer of a very thick board, wide
Oh,
board.
okay.
And then more stone, then more board.
All right.
That's interesting.
My
Baptist-
dad
oh, I'm
went
sorry.
to a one-room schoolhouse in Lincoln in the early 1920s. And was it what kind of house, do you have an idea if it was a cobblestone?
It wasn't cobblestone. Lincoln had a schoolhouse on Schoolhouse Road, and then they abandoned that one and built a new one on Lincoln Road, I guess it was. And I don't know the dates of when that took place. Sorry. Yes, ma'am.
The Webster Museum would like to emphasize, invite people over to the Webster Library. We have a large case where we have an exhibit on cobblestone houses, and we have a wonderful model of a cobblestone house there, loaned to us by Sharon Pratt, and a Vita board there, so that you
Okay.
can see,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh,
the
nice.
view of the cobblestones, what you would use that.
And speaking of models, I spoke Thursday night at the Marion Historic Association, and they dug out a cobblestone dollhouse that somebody had made. And they had that on display. It was really cool, so if you get over there, I'm sure they'd be happy to show it to you.
So, in Fairport, not as romantic or beautiful as a full cobblestone house, they have cobblestone foundations on a lot of the homes.
Yeah, there's one in Walworth too that I know of. The house burned a few years ago, but part of the foundation and part of the house, one section of the house stayed, and the cobblestone foundation is still there. The Cobblestone Society has been documenting cobblestone foundations as well, although I don't think they've been as aggressive at that part of the process as they have trying to get the actual larger structures. And that's part of the reason why they wanted that front porch that I shared with them from Lions, because it was one of those things that they didn't have in their database, and every little bit. In fact, you got something kind of unique out here that I just took a picture of today, and the reason I went to take a picture of it is it's not in the Cobblestone Society. It's listed in the database, but no picture of it. And that's on North Street at the entrance to 104, headed east.
Oh.
You got that little gazebo type thing with a little cobblestone wall. Obviously, it's not old, but it's cool.
Yes, we were very impressed and surprised by that. We were very disappointed by the neon sign they put in it.
Yeah, it doesn't add much to it, does it? Any other questions? Yes,
On the
ma'am.
gas station heading out on Old Ridge that you showed, is any society working to retrieve the remaining walls that have the cobblestones on them? Or
I don't think so. The person, the various people in the town of Williamson years ago tried to get the guy to do something to save it, so it wasn't going to fall down, and he just wasn't cooperative at all, and so I think they've just thrown up their hands.
I've been so tempted in driving past it to get out of the car and get a cobblestone.
It'll probably be all right.
Probably nobody would notice.
Wouldn't care. Wouldn't care.
I mean, I wonder, felt a little bit worried as I was there last fall, walking all around it and taking pictures of it, that somebody might say, hey, you're trespassing, but
Nobody did.
they didn't. And so I did take pictures, but I didn't take any pieces.
Could I say he showed you a picture of the building on the corner of 250 and Main Street? That's where the Mary Wee pub is right now. That building was there.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
And used to be a gas station too.
Yeah, they tore that down
Hamels
and built the gas station. Yeah,
Hamels.
yeah.
Again, we watched the building, the garage was turned into a garage
Yeah.
for years, and it never deteriorated really, it seemed, until the roof was gone. And once the water came down into the center.
Yeah, once you lose a roof on any building,
It's gone.
you're
That's when
done,
it went very
pretty much.
quickly.
Now, there is a cobblestone structure in Newark that is currently sitting empty and is owned by the hospital, and the roof is starting to leak. I've been in touch with the Cobblestone Society, I've been in touch with the Landmark Society, and the Landmark Society is interested in trying to do something, but they haven't been able to make the right contacts yet. And I think if they can get the hospital to turn over that building, that they would save it. But somebody better do something in the next couple, 3 years, or it's gonna be too late. So, we'll see. There's a lot of them gone. Of the 252 that I mentioned in Wayne County, we are down probably to 175 left. You know, some of them are just plain torn down, you know, like Walworth Academy. They just tore it down because they want to build a new school.
Well, that's like they tore that down to build a gas station, you know?
Architectural Digest needs to do an article.
Yeah.
Come out and do an article.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
You know, as I started out by saying, this is truly unique. The people who travel outside this area, you're not going to see cobblestone structures there. Or people from outside the area who come here to visit. And you were talking about somebody saw the potato house. You know, it's something that we really should be proud of, and
Yeah.
should, when we get people coming to visit us, we ought to point out this and tell them how unique it is, because it's something to be proud of.
A friend mentioned that the masons would sometimes take the mortar base and put it in the ground for a year before they put it together, used it. Was there a reason for this?
I'm not aware of that, so I don't know. And by the way, I'm not an expert on cobblestone masonry. I've studied it for a while. I've looked at a lot of them. I've read a lot of stuff about them, but there are people who know far more than I do. And I would recommend, if you have any specific questions that you want to know about a particular cobblestone structure, there are two contacts. The Cobblestone Society is one of them, and the Landmark Society, both of which have experts who can answer questions that I probably can't.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Spread the word. This is a unique thing that we have.
And my house we were talking about is on Shoecraft Road. I don't live there anymore, but you could drive by. And you don't see it's cobblestone because it's got parging on the front. But if you drive down a little street, Emily Lane, which is right next to it, you can see. You can't drive up or drive
And I
but
live
you
on
can drive
Shoecraft.
Emily Lane. Yes, and we have refreshments back here. And
look at my rocks.
yeah.
Look at his rocks.
And there's a few other little things over here in the books, but if you'd like one of these, obviously this is about Wayne County, but it gives you some examples of cobblestone, and it does have that reference for the Cobblestone Society information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome.